So you're buying a house or you're selling a house. And so what can you negotiate? What points are there? What issues can you negotiate? That's what I'm talking about today. Stick around. Hi, welcome back. My name's Joe Brown. I'm a real estate agent with Century 21, List with Vegans, located in South Tampa. Thank you so much for being here with me today. So the idea for this video came from a conversation I had with a couple that are talking to me about selling their house. And the husband was asking questions about, well, should we offer this? Should we offer that? What if we do this? And it made me think about what items are open for negotiation, right? So, because it's not all about price. However, that's where I'm going to start, okay? Number one is price. So, if you followed my videos, my market recap videos, you'll know one of the areas I list every month is called the ratio from what the house sells for compared to what it was originally priced at. And the example I always use is, let's say I list my house for $500,000. I drop the price to $450,000 and then the house sells. Well, my house sells at 90% of what I originally asked. So in Hillsborough County and even in South Tampa, we're about 94%. I think last month Hillsborough County was 93.7 or 93.9. So right about 94%. So that is one gauge, right, of negotiation is price. Now, the second issue, let me go back to price. Depending on the location of the house, the condition of the house, the different amenities, you could even go over asking price, right? We are still seeing that in the market, but the average is slightly under at about 94%, but there are still offers over asking price. The second issue, and to clarify, this really depends on what type of contract is offered. So at the state of Florida level, there's the regular real estate purchase contract, but then there's the as-is contract. And the as-is contract is really saying, I'm going to buy the house as it is. Well, here's what happens sometimes, right? Buyers say, now, from a buyer's perspective, the as-is contract gives you, the buyer, more flexibility to back out of the contract. That's why buyers like using the as-is contract. Sellers should really prefer to get the regular FAR contract. Anyway, so it's an as-is contract, and then they do their inspections. Now, that's another item of negotiation that I'll talk about in a second. But an inspection is done, and the inspection says, oh, you should look at this, maybe change that, or look at that. And so then the buyers will come back to the seller and say, hey, based on the inspection, we would like you to paint the walls or change the carpets or whatever. Well, wait a second. You are using an as-is contract. And your offer pretty much is saying, I'm going to buy the house as it is. Well, if you want me to make improvements to the house, then I'm going to counter and say, you owe me more money, right? That's only fair. Now, buyers typically go the other way and say, well, because these items should be done, I'm going to offer less money. But again, it's an as-is contract. You're making the offer on the house as it is. Now, certainly, there are some insurance-specific repairs that need to be done, and that's highlighted in the 4-point inspection. So, 4-point inspection looks at the electrical panel, the roof, the plumbing, and the air conditioning. And so, if any of those major issues are called out in the 4-point, then it absolutely makes getting a loan and insurance more difficult. That's why I encourage my sellers, let's get a 4-point inspection done before we list it, so there are no surprises as we move forward. So again, whether you can negotiate for repairs or improvements depends, one, on the type of contract you're using, but also the motivation of the seller and even the buyer. But let's talk about inspections. Inspections is a point of negotiation. Now, it used to be, when I say used to be, before COVID, we would ask for a 15-day inspection period. Well, then things got very quick, and offers were coming in with a 1-day inspection period or a 2-day inspection period. Typically, so when I represent buyers, I typically ask for a 7-day inspection period. But that in the contract, that line is blank. It defaults to 15 days. But that can be negotiated. How many days is allowed for the inspection? But remember, it's not just getting the house inspected, but once that report is done, if we're going to ask for repairs, right? And sometimes we have to submit that report to insurance to see what they say. It takes a few days. So just keep that in mind. There is the home warranty. I listen, whenever I write contracts for my buyers, I always ask the seller to provide a home warranty for the house. And listen, you can get a home warranty for $650, $810 for complete coverage. So you're not talking about a lot of money. I encourage my sellers to always offer a home warranty because it just gives peace of mind to the buyers coming in. Even for new homes, but this is true for inspections as well. So some builders for new homes will say, oh, you don't need a home inspection because it's a new home. Listen, just in my neighborhood, brand new home, $3 million home. No inspection was done, and the toilets didn't work. The toilet lines were clogged with construction debris, right? Another house, new construction. The water hookup was wrong. It was hooked up with the reclaimed water line instead of the regular water. So always, my encouragement, always get a home inspection. That's something that can be negotiated. The big thing are contingencies, right? As a buyer, and in this atmosphere here, right, there's a lot of supply. And so sellers are looking to sell their house. So they are more willing to offer different considerations. Some of those are, we will give you X amount, $5,000, $6,000 at closing to help you buy down your interest rate. Or $5,000 or $6,000 towards your closing costs, right? So those items can be negotiated. And those, when I say negotiated, those items should be presented in the contract when they are first presented to the seller. You can't say, present a contract and the seller say, okay, we'll take the contract, and then say, oh, by the way, will you pay closing costs? Will you give $5,000 towards rent? All that needs to be established up front so the seller knows exactly what they're facing. But because, well, let's say you present the contract and it's accepted, then you come back and say, oh, by the way, we would like for you to give $5,000 towards closing costs. The seller just has to say, no, we already have a contract. I'm not going to give up more than, right? So all that needs to be presented up front. And then it's negotiated back and forth with counter proposals and counter offers. So we talked about the home warranty, talked about price, talked about inspections, talked about rate buy down. And that really pretty much covers it, right? Now, listen, there's a lot of different, ins and outs. Listen, personal property, you go in to a house and you say, oh, I really like their couches or dinner table or cabinet, whatever. And you say, will the seller sell this? Well, again, that's something that can be asked. Now, just on the technical side, all those are called personal property. They can be picked up and moved. That's personal property. All that personal property should be done on a separate addendum and not part of the contract itself, but it's an addendum to the contract. But yeah, all that can be negotiated. I'm talking to a family now that's just going to move and leave all their furniture. And they said, whoever wants the furniture can buy it. Otherwise, we'll put it to an auction house, right? So there are families that, you know what, it's easier if you leave it here. It's easier if you buy it so I don't have to move it. So there's a lot of different categories, a lot of different items that can be negotiated. Again, that's why it's important for you to work with a trusted real estate advisor, somebody who has experience and has a team. I've mentioned this before. I am with List with Beggins, which is part of Beggins Enterprises. Beggins Enterprises has been around over 35 years and has closed over 70,000 transactions. So we have the experience. We have the support behind us. Our commitment is to you, to serve you the best we can, to get you the most money if you're a seller, and to get you the best deal if you're a buyer. So go to my website, joebrownc21.com. Reach out to me if you have questions about any of this, okay? And until next week, take care.